Earlier that day at Tengen's house. Okay, I'm gonna go over it one last time, so listen up. Tengen says sternly, glancing down at his Shino buff mice. Muscle. Ninju listened carefully at their master. Her name is Yin, and I'm sending you to Yoshiwara, along with the bouquets to go. Keep her company, okay? The Sound Hasher repeats. Muscle. The mice nodded in understandment. Don't go there causing her any trouble, all right? Stay low, behave, and treat her kindly. And don't hesitate to help her if she needs it. Got that? Muscle. And most importantly, always remain flamboyant. Yeah, Tengen orders. Muscle. The two mice flex their biceps and triceps before striking a pose in affirmation. Meanwhile, across the room, Suma, Hinatsu, and Makio watched the display in anticipation. Should we tell him? Asked Makio. Although the idea of Tengen setting the ninju to Yoshiwara sounded like a terrible idea, however, the three women weren't entirely sure how to deal with the situation as they each shared a look. I'm pretty sure they'll be fine, Hinatsu says, flashing a nervous smile. I just hope Yin-chan isn't afraid of mice, says Suma, as she couldn't help fear for Ninju's safety. Now, you shrieked. You had managed to climb up on top of your dresser upon seeing the mice as said little critters remained on your bed. Sanitally, the ninju were somewhat cowering in fear upon seeing Marshmallow, who only continued to glare at them menacingly. For the buff mice, it would have seemed that their so-called master had failed to mention that his girlfriend had a pet cat, as the feline slowly stalked towards them. Yet, it was perfectly clear that to Ninju that Tengen was unaware you had a cat, or else he would have had sent them to Yoshiwara in the first place if he had known. Nonetheless, one measly domestic cat was nothing compared to any other foes the ninju had encountered in the past. From snakes, owls, to hawks and weasels, none weren't as scary as the demons they seen whilst aiding the Demon Slayer and Hashiras. And I mean, let's be honest, their master is a crow. Also, their friend is Karmaru, is a snake, so a hungry cat wasn't nothing they couldn't handle. So, with that in mind, the two buff mice made eye contact with another one and nodded. Muscle, they said in unison and immediately began flexing their biceps, causing Marshmallow to stop dead in her tracks. You, on the other hand, couldn't believe what you were witnessing. Were these mice seriously flexing? And since when did mice have muscles and abs? Perhaps you inhaled something strong, pheromones from these flowers, and now your mind was playing tricks on you? Muscle. Muscle. The two mice continued flexing and striking poses. Seeing this, Marshmallow slowly backed off and then positioned herself in a catalof crouch, her tail twitching with curiosity as she observed the comedical display of endowment, maybe? She tilted her head to the side, whiskers quivering with amusement as she tried to make sense of the strange scene unfolding before her. You blinked in confusion, seeing your cat enjoy the sight of the mice flexing their biceps and striking flamboyant poses. It was a sight you never thought you'd witness, and yet here you are, watching it in amazement as tiny creatures put on a show for your feline friend. Their lucky Marshmallow doesn't eat rodents, you mused, wondering how the scene would have taken place if that was the case. Though you had to admit, it was actually sort of cute, in some weird kind of way. However, the more you continued to observe, the more you begin to feel a familiar pattern. The way the two little mice were flexing and the way Marshmallow was staring reminded you a lot of you and Tengen back at the ruin. Then it hits you. These mice came from the bouquets? God, I can never say bouquets that Tengen had sent to you, and you took a note of an awfully familiar detail that you overlooked in your picnic. They're wearing a bejeweled headband just like the one Tengen wore when you first met him. After climbing down from the dresser, you cautiously approaches your bed and towards the buff mice. You quickly noticed you. Muscle! They exclaimed as if intently knew instantly who you are as they stopped their flexing and began squeaking happily. Apparently the only thing they seemed to say in human tongue is muscle, which was mighty impressive for an animal with a brain the size of a pea and the IQ of 100. Isn't that a lot? I'm stupid. With your fear now subsided, you slowly sat down on your bed and parted your bangs to reveal your face, as not to spook them or appear intimidating. Seeing this, the two little mice politely bowed down to you like the knights would a queen, which you felt honored. Despite their oddly biddled shape, you couldn't help but feel them bristly cute as you reached a single finger out and cautiously touched one of them. You flinched slightly as the little mouse took your finger and shook it in a handshake gesture, which made you smile at the adorable display. Are you friends of Tengen-sama? You asked softly. As a response, they nodded enthusiastically, answering your question. Oh, well, please, nice to meet you, you tell them. Sorry about that. I really wasn't expecting mice as an extra gift. They replied with more squeaks and chirps, as if telling you it's okay and they were sorry for scaring you. Tengen is certainly a man full of surprises, isn't he? You say, though almost to yourself more than them. You watched as one of the mice pulled out a pink envelope from the bouquets of roses and kindly handed it to you. What's this now? You questioned, opening the envelope. You revealed it's a letter from Tengen as you read it. To my lovely Yunjan, this is Nijin, my flamboyant Shino buff mice. They are specifically trained to be of assistance, so please allow them to help, aid, and keep you company until days come when I can see you again. Sincerely yours, Tengen Uzui. P.S. Keep them with you at all time and let no one see them. Winky face. Once you finished reading the note, you completely understood now as you smiled and turned your attention back towards Ninju. Buff mice, well, you two are certainly living up to your name, you chuckled. I'm curious to know what methods Tengen used to get two ordinary field mice to be as buff and flashy as he is. Muscle! They exclaimed in unison and immediately began doing various exercises such as push-ups, sit-ups, and squats, thus giving you an exact clear example of how Tengen trained them. You could only assume Tengen had supposedly added food, such as cheese, into the mix and flavor of training them and getting them to listen to him. And from what you're seeing right now, the end result was indeed a marvelous success. I see. Well, most certainty explains a lot. You smile before handing out your hand to them. Amazingly, the little guys did not hesitate and climb into your hands as you gently lifted them up closer for inspection. You intently took note of what you thought were pants and gloves were actually part of their fur, which you couldn't help but agree only added to their already unique look. Curiously, you leaned down closer to smell them, half expecting them to smell something horrid and unpleasant. Keep in mind that mice were vermin and carried of diseases. However, you were met with no such thing. Unbelievably, they both were fresh, earthy smell that strong remind you of parcher, which was either unpleasant nor enough to make you vomit. Warm and comforting and indulging. Heavily implied that Tengen also keeps his buff mice well cleaned and groomed, since you noted earlier that their fur appeared shiny and they didn't seem to have fleas, ticks, or any parasites on them. I'll have to admit, you ninju are pretty cute, you say sweetly, causing them to blush slightly. So, Tengen sent you to keep me company, did he? You ask. Muscle. They nod. Well, I guess I have no one to blame but myself for not telling him about my pet cat, Marshmallow. You gestured toward the said cat, who only meowed. The sight of Marshmallow seemed to make the mice quiver slightly as you quickly reassured them. Do not worry, though, you're safe. She only tried to protect me in case you were a threat. Luckily, Marshmallow doesn't eat or kill mice. You tell them. But if you had been fish, then I'm afraid you have met a terrible fate, since she loves fish. Well, thank God that they're only mice and not fish, as Ninju couldn't help but give a sigh of relief. Now, you tilted your head in question. What's to name you? You pondered.